Good morning here. It's Sunday morning. It's about 8 o'clock, and as you can see, it is not 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And that is because last night I was watching the UFC, watching McGregor and Diaz with an unbelievable fight. Last night was a pretty cool card too because it had Rick Story, whom I fought, and Rumble Johnson, whom I fought. So it was kind of a nice little fun thing to watch last night. So I didn't get home, didn't go to bed till after 2, so I did not, certainly did not get up at 4:30 in the morning. But again, I'm reading today's little snippet. I'm still reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the thing that I'm going to touch on today, so there was something in the book about criticizing people. And it was saying how fruitless it is to criticize people. And the reason being this, the chapter started with, there were, I don't know, 3 or 4 examples of famous criminals in history. Al Capone was one of them. And what it came down to basically was, once these, criminals were caught or put in prison or in their memoirs, they justified every single thing they did. They never, took responsibility for what they did. So the point of this snippet, the point of today's reading is that the point that criticizing is rather fruitless. And in the book it says, so when you and I are tempted to criticize someone tomorrow, let's remember that Al Capone, Two Gun Crawley, and Albert Fall. Let's realize that criticisms are like homing pigeons. They always return home. And it's saying that the people who are criticized, these criminals who are absolutely terrible, justify it right back at you. And the one neat, I can relate to this story, but the one neat anecdote in the chapter dealt with Abraham Lincoln. And I guess back in the day, Abraham Lincoln, prior to becoming the president, was very quick to criticize, and he would publicly criticize people in newspapers and articles. And he wrote an article about this guy, and this guy tracked him down, found out who it was, challenged him to a duel to the death. So in order to save his honor, Lincoln accepted the duel. They met out in the middle of I believe it was the Mississippi River, to fight to the death. And at the last second, it was stopped. The duel was stopped. Thankfully, Lincoln was spared his life, and they went on. But it said from that day forward, he never criticized anyone. And I can relate that to my career pretty well, because a couple years ago at UFC 151, when UFC 151 was canceled and Jon Jones refused to fight Chael Sonnen, man, I was quick. I hopped on Twitter and I criticized Jon Jones. I didn't even think twice about it. And I write about this in my book. I tell it in stories when I speak, but I was quick. I hopped on there and said, hey, John, this is exactly what I said. You can Google the tweet. But I said, hey, Jon Jones, you can send my rent check too. And then I put part of my address as a joke, like, you canceled the show, so you should send me your money so I can pay my rent. Because of you, I'm not fighting. So I put it out there in the world. Jon Jones found out about it, and he and I had an argument. It came face to face. I wouldn't say it almost came to blows, but it taught me a lesson that, whoa, you better watch who you criticize and where you criticize these people, especially on social media. I get criticized all the time, but I'm fine with it. So on your end of it, be careful who you criticize for a couple reasons. One, chances are if someone feels so strongly about one thing or another, they're not going to listen to you and they're not going to change. And 2, be careful what you say, because it's out there in the ether and the people are going to find out about it. So learn like Abraham Lincoln learned, learn like I learned. Don't criticize. It's not going to change people. It's tough to bite your tongue, but don't criticize. It's not going to change people, and you never know when it's going to come back to haunt you. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the people who are watching. Like I said, I'm going to do this every day for the next 30 days. If you like it, I'll keep it up. Remember, A Fighter's Mindset on iTunes. Check it out. Reviews are welcome. Have a great Sunday. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 5:15. Take care, all.